Hey folks, Brendan here from Bluelight. Now, if you've got a police interview ahead of you, this video is for you, especially if it's a Lancashire Constabulary final interview. This has got a reputation as being one of the harder interviews in the country. 45 minutes to an hour's worth in front of a sergeant or an inspector and someone from HR or maybe two police officers. And they're going to ask you some really tough questions. So I thought what I'd do in this video is to give you some examples of the sort of questions that you might get and what you shouldn't be covering, because so many of my clients fall into these traps. They're well-worn traps, and they're the ones that I don't want you to fall into. Now, if you're one of my clients on the interview course, get yourself over to the interview course Facebook group and also to the actual interview course, because the second video I'm going to make is how to actually approach each one of these questions. So in the first one, I'm going to talk to you about what you shouldn't be doing. And in the second one, I'm going to talk to you about what you must be doing in order to get a really high mark. So in terms of how they mark you, before I get to the questions, you are going to get graded on a sliding scale. Most forces do this. They don't do anything complicated. It tends to be just something along the lines of a 1 is not evident, a 5 is highly evident, and then you've got things like somewhat evident, evident, and considerably evident in between. You're aiming at 4s and 5s. If you're getting 2s and 3s, it's not going to be enough to make the final cut. Why is it important to get a high mark, not a mediocre mark? Because if they are interviewing 200 candidates and they only have 100 places, then just do the math. They've got to cut the numbers down. So even if 150 people get the required pass mark, it's irrelevant. Often in the Facebook group, and if you want to find out how to join the Facebook group and to join the courses, get on the interview course, the links are below. But often in the Facebook group, it's now got almost 20,000 members, which is just incredible. But what common question is, what's the pass mark for? Does anyone know what the pass mark for whatever force it is, online assessment centre? It's irrelevant what the pass mark is, because although they'll set the pass mark, although you've passed, you may not have achieved a high enough score. So this is why we need to be getting 4s and 5s. Cheshire do this. They will write to you to say, congratulations, you've passed everything. Your scores weren't high enough, you've not got a place. Other forces will just put you in a talent pool and you might be sitting there for months, years, and you don't want to be in that position. So anyway, to the questions. I know that's what you're thinking, isn't it? Get on with it, Brendan, just to get to the questions. So one of the first questions is going to be about your motivation. This can be worded, why do you want to be a police officer? Why do you want to be a police officer in Lancashire? And by the way, if you're approaching another force, you know, these are sort of questions you're going to get. So don't just think that, oh, well, this is just Lancashire, I don't need to worry about this. This is, every force asks similar questions to these. But it's just that Lancashire is a particularly tough one. It's a very popular force to get into. So why do you want to be a police officer? Why this force? What have you done to prepare for this interview or for the recruitment process? Right. What not to do. If you talk about workshops you've attended, if you talk about research you've done on your website, so has everyone else. This is a common answer that people give me. Everyone's done that. So it's not setting you aside at all. It's not demonstrating that you're really interested and enthusiastic and you've got off your backside. So don't do that. Do not do that. The role of a police officer. What's your understanding of the role of a police officer? Do not just repeat what's on the website, because all that demonstrates is that you're capable of looking at their website and their recruitment blurb. More is needed. Number 3, values are important in policing. What can you tell me about the core values in policing and how do they link to their own? What not to do. Do not just repeat phrases from the competency and values framework. The other day I did some one-to-one coaching with a client who started off by saying, I believe that values that are really important to the police service are impartiality, integrity, and transparency. And he just reeled off 3 out of the 4 values from the competency and values framework. Now, all that tells me is you've read the competency and values framework. My 13-year-old daughter could give that answer. Needs to be more than that, far more. And in terms of your own values, this candidate went on to just give me some really, really vague answer about how my values, my personal values, taught to me by my family, align, of course, with these values. Come on, give me a break. The answer was about a minute long. You've got to be talking for a long time, folks. You've got a lot of time to talk because the interview is 45 minutes to an hour long, and they're only going to give you 7 or 8 questions. Difficult decision. Do not confuse life decisions with difficult decisions that you've had to make. Difficult decisions are the ones that are actually difficult, where you come home and you're just thinking, I don't know what to do. Don't do big decisions. Big decisions are things like what university you go to, where you're going to live, big things like that. Big things that happens in everyone's life. So if it happens in everyone's life, why does that qualify you to be a police officer? No, they want far more than that. Emotional awareness is not about how you care about other people. It's far, far more than that. And there's some really, really tricky questions you can ask you around emotional awareness. Courage and integrity. This will invariably be a question around, can you tell me about a time when you've demonstrated courage in doing the right thing, even in a challenging or difficult situation? That's pretty much the definition of integrity, doing the right thing in difficult circumstances or challenging circumstances, even when no one is watching. So they want you to give them a time when you've really stepped up to the plate, when you have demonstrated that you are capable of making the difficult decisions in challenging people's behaviour when it drops below the required standard. That's needed now more than ever with the sort of scrutiny that the police are under. Please, can you provide me with an example when you've worked as part of a team and took ownership of a situation to overcome a problem? Do not use the word we. Even though you're talking about a team, do not use the word we, and do not describe what you do every day in your normal function, in your normal role, because that's not going to get you through. And the reason why describing we, saying what we did next and what we did and then what we did, and people fall into this trap all the time. Even seasoned police officers who I'm preparing for the rank of sergeant or inspectors boards or even superintendent boards, they will use the word we. Why? Because when you're part of a team, you describe it as part of a we. I know you're thinking, how do I get around that? Watch the second video and I will explain all. So the very last one is not a question, but it's diversity, equality and inclusion. Now, Lancashire Constabulary are really big on this. So what I would do as a golden thread is I would interweave diversity, equality and inclusion into some of those questions, because one of the things that we do with the structured approach that I advocate, it's not STAR. If you look up how to answer interview questions, you get STAR. I already know from my contacts within the police that recruiters, assessors are sick of people using that model. So it comes across as robotic, it comes across as mechanistic, it comes across as rehearsed, and they don't like it. They don't like it. Even to the extent that there's some promotion processes now. I know this from talking to my clients from Police Service of Northern Ireland, Greater Manchester Police, Metropolitan Police. They're even saying that we're not really going to assess you against the competency and values framework. Now, they've got to assess you against something, but what they're after is something that's minus buzzwords, that isn't mechanistic or formulaic, that doesn't sound rehearsed. We've got to get away from that, folks. And this is why my interview answer model works so well. It's SALCU, which stands for situation, aim, actions, result, learning, knowledge and understanding. And it's that knowledge and understanding part and the learning part that's going to set you aside from others. We deliver that, and there's more to each one of those stages. We deliver that with authenticity, with emotion, with some passion. in a detailed and structured way. We don't make out that everything we touch turns to gold, because it doesn't. The police are really interested in knowing how you manage mistakes, how you manage things when things go wrong. Are you humble enough to say, that didn't go as well as I planned? Because if your answers try and persuade me that everything you touch turns to gold, I'm going to think one of two things. One, it wasn't challenging enough or difficult enough for you. Because if you're describing something that's difficult or challenging to me, then it didn't go right. It didn't go as per plan. That's why it was difficult. That's why it was challenging. Or I'm going to think you're lying. One of the two. And I'll find out which, because I'll just ask you lots and lots of really tough questions until I reveal the truth, whichever one it is. I'd much rather you just tell me in your answer, because you've got plenty of time. So there you go, folks. You want to find out more, you want to find out how to answer those questions, jump onto the second video. It's available for my clients in the Interview Course Facebook group and in the Interview Course. You'll find the links to those below. Come and join us on the webinars, where every week we get to practice questions like this as part of a group using Zoom webinars, and there's recordings of all of those available. I've been doing this for years. I wish I'd kept the recordings years ago, but I've now got a year's worth of recordings of weekly webinars. So awesome resources there for you to ensure that you pass with a really high mark. So for those of you, my clients, I'll see you in the next video. Otherwise, I shall see you very soon once you've signed up. And remember, once you've signed up for one of those courses, if within 24 hours you think it's not for you, just let me know. Give you a full refund. I've only given one of those ever. So that must say something about the quality of the courses. I'll catch you with you soon, folks. Bye-bye for now.